Welcome in, everybody. It's another bullish day in the crypto market. We're seeing some nice price action, even though Bitcoin having a little bit of a pullback, but we're starting to see some interesting moves on the charts for altcoins such as XRP and others. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. David R. Morla, welcome in. Pickle Rick, welcome in. Zif Nabi, if I'm saying that right, GM. RLC Cuber, welcome in. Logan, welcome in. David says, I tapped my 100K milestone today. Congrats, David. Carl, welcome in, Carl. Great to have you. Bull market is heating up, folks. Got some good macro news with the tariffs and trade wars. That seems to be, on the path to resolution, not fully resolved, but I think the markets just need a signal that it's on the path to resolution. Eric DM, welcome in from Holland. JR Beer, great to have you. RK, great to have you. Crypto Rafi, how are you? Tivian, welcome in from Orlando, Florida. Lista from Jakarta, wow, great to have you. John Magni, if I'm saying that right, greetings from Norway. Ewok, full moon tonight seems to always bring out something in the market. For sure. There are people who have done studies about astrology and the cycles of the moon and the impact on markets. And it's not so much the impact on markets, because markets are driven by people, right? Human psychology. So it could be the impact on human beings and how we feel and things along those lines. It's very fascinating. I'm not saying it's, correct or 100% accurate, but there is, I think, some truth there. And go study that, guys. Astrology and markets and much more. It's very interesting. David O'Brien, greetings from Dublin, Ireland. Great to have you. Peter Cabbage Eater from Toronto, thank you for joining. Eduardo Valdez says, good morning, Tony. Maybe $3 XRP today. Well, definitely not today, but, I think in the near future for sure. Jana Mail says, crypto pullback. Yeah, we're going to talk a bit about it. There's nothing to be concerned about. Nothing goes up in a straight line. I'll share with you guys what's happening. 80 Fefe, welcome in from Stockholm, Sweden. Dude 6195 says, newest podcast I started following. Definitely feels good listening. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. Crypto Info, great to have you. All right, folks, let's jump into it. So I'm sure many of you saw that we got news that the China-US trade war tariff situation is ramping down. It is not fully resolved. We still got ways to go, but just so you know, US to cut tariffs on Chinese goods to 30% from 145% for 90 days. China to lower tariffs on US goods to 10% from 125% for 90 days. So as you can see here, we're on the path to resolution. As I mentioned in yesterday's podcast, the dark cloud of uncertainty is starting to dissipate. It's starting to move away here. And markets love that. Markets hate uncertainty, guys. We've seen it. When you put this type of macro uncertainty, the markets are going to crash. There's going to be huge sell-offs. So with the uncertainty starting to clear away, this should be very good for the continuation of the bull market. Now, this is not what determines the bull market. What determines the bull market is global liquidity, which we've been tracking for over a year now. And we've been tracking heavily over the past few months because global liquidity broke out after finding a bottom. So this morning, Bitcoin right now finds itself below 103,000. But if you look at the daily chart, there's nothing bearish here. It's simply consolidation, right? Just like we saw with the move from about 85 all the way up to 94-ish, then some consolidation, sideways chop, and then breakout again, right? Same thing is happening here. And Bitcoin is comfortably above the 200-day moving average. This green line you're seeing on my chart, let me make myself smaller here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And what have I been saying, folks? When we were down here, I said Bitcoin has to get the hell out of this hole, go above that 200-day moving average, show it can stay above there, have the strength, because that means we are in a bull market territory. When we are below the 200-day moving average for an extended period of time, and we see a downtrend like we saw in 2022, that is bear market territory. Simple pattern recognition. You don't have to be an expert technical analyst. You don't have to be a Wall Street expert or whatever. Just simply looking at these market principles and metrics and signals will tell you where we're at. So we are still in a bull market. So nothing to panic about. And what's important to note is that Bitcoin on the daily, notice its RSI is near, well, I should say it is in the overbought zone. So the reason you're seeing this pullback is healthy, right? Just like we saw in Bitcoin, rising up in Q4, it hit overbought zones and then started pulling back. Now it can hang out in this overbought zone for weeks. It did that in Q4. Notice this area here, it stayed up there as Bitcoin's price kept climbing. So this little pullback here will eventually bounce and we will see higher prices, and Bitcoin could run to 120K, possibly higher than that. But what's interesting on the weekly chart is it is still looking very bullish with the weekly RSI breaking out clearly here, but its weekly RSI is not in the overbought zone yet, like it was in Q4. So on the higher time frame, you're still seeing a setup for an extended run. And look at this, where my mouse cursor is, the MACD flipped bullish with green candles playing out here, just like it did at the start of the Q4 rally. Notice the flip. This is the data. This is not emotions. This is not a narrative. This is just the metrics. I'm showing you exactly what's on the chart, and you can go pull this up on TradingView if you want. So I just want to make sure that I'm highlighting that and reinforcing the point that this is data, because a lot of people move by sentiment and emotions. Oh no, the price is down today. Oh no, the world is over. No, look at the charts. It tells you what's coming. So as we see the bulls continue to grab the momentum here, as this has flipped green, that's very good for Bitcoin and the continuation. So regardless of what's happening today with Bitcoin RSI and the daily a little bit overheated, it'll cool down and then bounce and keep moving. That's all that's happening here. So definitely understand that. What's interesting, you have some altcoins like XRP starting to move. XRP's charts looks very bullish. I just highlighted that on the 200-day move, on the Bitcoin chart, that Bitcoin broke below the 200-day moving average and we had to get out of that hole. XRP just flash dipped below it and then kept its strength for the most part. So it was showing more strength on its chart than a Bitcoin. So XRP is looking very good here. And you may say, why are altcoins moving all of a sudden? Why are they showing strength? Well, look at this. The Bitcoin dominance is starting to break down. This does not mean Bitcoin is not going to keep running up. It means that Bitcoin will run, but the majority of the liquidity will start flowing to altcoins. And I know many of you hold altcoins, so this is what you want to see. This is a chart you want to see right here. Bitcoin dominance falling. And it dropped from 66 to down to, 62. And it looks like the trajectory here is it will keep going down like it did in Q4. Same pattern. When Bitcoin dominance is rising, it means it's stealing the show. It's stealing most of the liquidity. And that made sense because we were waiting for Bitcoin to get out of the hole. See how all of this is correlated? It's pretty clear as day what's happening here. So this is breaking down, and that's very good for altcoins. The other factor is US Tether dominance is breaking down. So what does this mean? When this is breaking down, it means liquidity is leaving the stable coins and going into Bitcoin and altcoins, right? You see a lot of whales, they use Tether. They put their cash into Tether. It allows them to move their money faster, trade with it easier, and much more. And when this liquidity starts flowing into the Bitcoin and altcoins, their prices go up and Tether's dominance starts falling. This happened in Q1 of 2024 with the ETF launch. Many of you recall that big rally, and that was put Bitcoin ahead of schedule. It made a new all-time high before the halving. Then Q4, big dump here, or collapse, I should say. Same thing playing out here. This is the charts. This is the data, not feelings, not narratives, not fairy tales. Just look at the data. It's telling you what's happening, and you see the inverse of that, or the correlation to that, I should say. So pretty clear, bull market still intact, no deviation from the bull market. Just we had a major correction due to a natural healthy pullback from the Q4 rally plus the tariff uncertainty. So that's what drove us down further and kind of extended the timeline. It delayed the recovery, if you want to call it that. So we're seeing the setup here for the continuation of the market. And this, I believe, will take us to a local top. And that could wrap up by June or early July. Then I believe we could see a heavy correction into July and August, which would be normal, right? And healthy. Summertime is usually just boring sideways movement. Just look at what happened last summer. My goodness, that was so painful. That sideways chop, folks. And then you had the Japanese yen carry trade situation. But that was painful after the huge run up to March and April. And then boom, big collapse. And then, well, not really a big collapse, I should say, but just a slow collapse that was painstaking. It was just boring. You had to like leave the market and go away. So we could see something similar play out this summer, and then another final pump into Q4. So usually you'll start seeing some pickup in late September, October. Then November is when you usually see the big blast off. So no guarantees or certainties. These are probabilities, but based on the data now, not our gut feelings, not astrology or whatever, just this is what the chart is looking like. And we are seeing a move towards higher highs here. So this is very good. So as always, make sure you have your cash out plan and know what price points you're taking profits at. The bull market doesn't last forever. Now, one of the things that we've been tracking closely is what's driving the bull market: global liquidity. Central banks around the globe debasing their currency, printing more money. And the United States, while it hasn't started full QE, they have been doing certain things like liquidity injections from the Treasury General account and much more. So all of that is contributing to the rise in global liquidity. And you'll notice that Bitcoin and the crypto market and risk assets in general, they do lag this. So global liquidity breaks out, then the risk assets catch up because the liquidity starts cycling through the economy and markets. So again, the data doesn't lie. Look at what's happening here. You can go back, you can go pull this up yourself and review it, and you'll see this thing is moving. All risk assets are moving with crypto. And with the tariff news that we got this morning, we are seeing that the stock market is starting to recover. And we were just talking about the 200-day moving average. Look at this. NASDAQ peaked above the 200-day moving average here. Very bullish. Bull market territory, right? S&P 500. Look at that. Back above, right? Bull market territory. Dow Jones. Guys, you see the pattern. You see what's happening. So Bitcoin and crypto is actually leading this recovery, and the stock market is not catching up. And that makes sense because Bitcoin and crypto are not affected by tariffs and goods and services, but companies are. So clearly, the stock market took a bigger hit. Thank you, Crypto Info, for the $5 donation. I appreciate that, my friend. So, folks, see the pattern recognition? Just even look at Tesla. Tesla back above the 200-day moving average, heading back into bull market territory. If it was down here and this was heading into a downtrend, that's bear market, like we saw in 2022. The charts don't lie, my friends. Look at that, right? When you got that, when you're below that 200-day moving average and you are in a downtrend, bear market. When you're back above it and you're heading up, bull market. Very simple indicator that many of you can go pull up on any chart to see where we're at. So when in doubt, zoom out, right, folks? Same thing with the S&P 500 here. We've seen it time and time again. So all great signs. M2 continues to rise. Risk assets are following. The other thing I share with you folks, and on the stream, in the newsletter, Bitcoin whales who control the market continue to accumulate. This is on-chain data from Sentiment. So we're not only looking at charts, we're not only looking at macro data like the global liquidity, we're also looking at on-chain data. I hope you appreciate that. We don't want to have tunnel vision for one metric or one signal. We want to look at all of it. We want all the puzzle pieces to show us the full picture here, get the lay of the land. Bitcoin whales with 10 or more Bitcoin in their wallets continue to accumulate. They're not dumping. What did we see last year in March and into May, March into April into May? They started dumping after that local top for Bitcoin, but then they picked up steam again and started accumulating and have been since. There was some decline with the tariff fear and uncertainty, which is expected. There was a lot of fear in the market, so they took profits, and then look at it spike. They saw, oh, bull market's not over, everything's still holding up, start accumulating again. See what's happening here? So this is what smart money is doing, and it is very fascinating to watch them do their thing. Now, what's correlated to that is when they are selling and they're getting ready to sell, they start moving a ton of coins on the exchange. But the opposite has been happening here. As they've been accumulating, they're moving the coins off the exchange. So you see Bitcoin supply on the exchanges is being removed. It's continuing to hit all-time lows. So you may say, well, what about altcoins? Well, we were using Bitcoin as the measuring stick because Bitcoin moves the market, right? The majority of the liquidity comes into Bitcoin, and then it gets rotated. The liquidity gets rotated into altcoins. So that's why we're looking at Bitcoin as a measuring stick. So even if you don't hold Bitcoin, you want to see this happening because it's an indication of what's to come for altcoins. So looks really, really great. Folks, before we continue, be sure to check out our sponsors, Uphold, great platform to buy, sell, trade, and stake crypto. Trezor, they make the awesome, great hardware wallets that make it easy for you to store your crypto. And I'm a user of the product. I use the Trezor Safe 5. You can use the code ThinkingCrypto, all one word, ThinkingCrypto, to get 5% off. Check out our other sponsor, Proppy. They're leading the charge with putting real estate on chain. And I'm a holder of the Proppy token. I believe in it. VeChain, one of the top layer 1 enterprise blockchains, getting huge adoption globally. They're partnering with Dana White, the UFC, and much more. I'm a VET token holder, bullish on this project. Also, check out our newsletter, my book on Amazon, and our course at mycryptocourse.com. All the links will be in the description. So folks, going back to the data here, once again, whales accumulating, supply in exchanges is going down. Very, very good. And obviously the macro news, as I mentioned earlier, we have some resolution, or we're on the path to a resolution with the tariff situation. This is good, getting the macro uncertainty out of the way for markets to hit full gear and go back into bull rally mode. Michael Saylor and the folks of Strategy continue to buy Bitcoin. This is crazy. They've acquired 13,390 Bitcoin for approximately $1.34 billion at around a value of $99,856. This is wild. They now have over 568,000 Bitcoin. Insane. I feel like Michael Saylor is like, you have junkies and drug addicts. Michael Saylor is a Bitcoin addict, man. He's a Bitcoin junkie. But look at this. Nakamoto Holdings merges with Kindly MD to build Bitcoin treasury. So we are seeing more companies are building that Bitcoin corporate treasury strategy, and it's really helping them. Wow, crypto info. Thank you so much. I'll definitely check out your channel. Very cool. Thank you for the $100 donation, my friend. I appreciate that. So healthcare services provider Kindly MD has merged with Bitcoin native holding company Nakamoto Holdings to build a Bitcoin treasury. According to a May 12th announcement, Nakamoto Holdings, a new company founded by David Bailey, a crypto advisor to U.S. President Donald Trump, plans to build the first global network of Bitcoin treasury companies in partnership with Bitcoin Inc. So this is so interesting. I've been telling you guys about Conor McGregor, and he's been calling for a Bitcoin treasury or strategic Bitcoin reserve for Ireland because he's running for president of Ireland. So fascinating. And as I've been saying, this is not a trend that's going to go away. It's going to continue to rise. More companies will hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and it will go to altcoins eventually. I believe we're starting to see some companies hold Solana, Ethereum. There was one company who reported they were going to do XRP. So very, very interesting here. And folks, along the lines of the price increase we're seeing and all the buying, ETFs are seeing incredible inflows. So things are picking up. And I think we all recognize the market is on the rise and people are getting more optimistic. So we're seeing huge inflows into ETFs again. That's a good sign. Remember, BlackRock, Fidelity, and all these folks, they have these ETFs. They're going to go pitch it to different RIAs and customers. They're going to encourage their customers to buy their ETFs, right? So the fact that they're doing this and we're seeing the inflows is very good. However, as always, right, it's fine that this is happening. Just make sure you have your cash out plan, because we want to walk away from this bull market with money in our pockets. Sometimes we see the news and we think, oh, this is going to keep going up forever. This is going to keep going higher, right? Well, we got to be careful, folks. It's important that you don't get caught up too much in the narrative and the euphoria, and you forget to stick to your plan. You have to stick to your plan to take money, because, folks, go back on the charts. Bull markets don't last forever. There will be a top. And what we've seen for Bitcoin, it usually, using a Fibonacci model, it usually hits the 3.618 and then hits a top. That is not guaranteed that it gets there, but I think it still has room to go. It could get to the 2.618 and top out, or maybe it just keeps going higher to the 3.618, because these models are talking about market psychology, and we're starting to see the macro factors, global liquidity, and other things are aligning for all of this to continue going higher. I hold some stocks like Tesla as well. I'll be taking profits as these things go higher, and making sure I take chips off the table. So, folks, things looking really, really great here. Be patient and don't invest with your emotions. Make sure you're zooming out and being patient, as mentioned. Whoops. Let's see here. I can answer questions, look at some charts for you guys. I know I pulled up the XRP chart earlier. That is looking really good. And yes, I'm an XRP holder. Yes, I'm bullish on it. So, oops, I did the 1 hour. I want to do one day. And I believe we're going to go to higher prices if things play out, according to what we're thinking here. For this local top, could we see a $3.50 to $4 range possible? It depending on what Bitcoin does. We'll just have to be patient, but I'll definitely be taking a little bit off the table. I'm not selling all my coins, just so you guys know. So let's see how high this bull market takes us. I think we could reach $8, maybe $8 to $10, right? It just depends on the amount of liquidity, how euphoric things get, especially as later in the year, many of you know, the ETFs, XRP ETFs, Solana ETFs are scheduled. The deadline is like October. So the SEC approves at the right time. Plus, we have crypto legislation coming into the market that could signal the top. ETF launch, crypto legislation being put into place. And, you're going to see a lot of euphoria and a lot of capital flowing in. That's the time you want to be taking profits again, right? So appreciate you guys tuning in, and let's answer some questions here. And let me catch up here to some things. No way, Jose says, is XRP the next Bitcoin? No, they're different coins. Bitcoin is more of a store of value, digital gold. XRP is more of a utility coin, payments, things along those lines. It's a layer one that could be built on, right? Joe M says, I don't think anything will ever catch up to Bitcoin, but a rising tide lifts all boats. Exactly, Joe. We don't have to be tribal. We don't have to be emotional. We just got to ride the wave and make money. I'm here to make money. Some people are here for religion and other things. I don't care about that. And at the end of the day, I'm looking to make as much money as possible, boost up my retirement, spend some money, pay off debt, help some family and things like that. Those are my goals. Other than that, fairy tale stories, whatever, I don't care. I'm just here to, make money. And I'm looking at the charts and the data and showing you guys, what's coming. David says here, Eduardo Valdez, not enough momentum for $3 XRP. We got slammed down hard at 265. Still a nice rally day, though. Yeah, certainly not today. I think we got to wait for Bitcoin to continue moving, and then the liquidity will flow, and then we could see at the high, I think at $3.50 XRP $3.80 come June, honestly. Luca Ciao from Sicily. Welcome in, Luca. Great to have you. Let's see here. David says, I honestly have no idea what made XRP surge so hard today. I got away from Bitcoin and ETH. Most of the times those charts are lookalikes, but not today. So David, I don't know if you saw, Ethereum was rallying over the weekend. So it put in some really nice green candles here. You're seeing the strength. So remember, rotational liquidity, right? So now it's XRP's turn, and then eventually you're going to see Cardano start moving. So it's just rotational liquidity. It doesn't necessarily have to be some major news item to get there. If I'm thinking of, I hope you're just thinking about making money, not me, folks. Time for VET to get some traction, says Zipnap. Yeah, well, I'm a VET token holder, and we need VET just like we're seeing with what do you call it, XRP, to get above that 200-day moving average. I think it will, but you can see it's starting to show some life here. That's what we want to see. Some coins are going to be laggards. The top ones as far as market cap, are going to lead the market, and they're going to get a lot of liquidity. They have more visibility. They have sometimes stronger narratives, and eventually the rest of the folks will catch up. But I'm bullish on VET. They're one of my sponsors, as mentioned. I've been holding the VET token since about 2018. I am bullish on this project. So it's not because they were my sponsor I hold the token. I've been holding it way before. Many of you know that because I've shared my portfolio over the years. So I believe VET will do well this cycle. No guarantees, of course. I don't have a crystal ball, but boy, if we just get to, let's see, a 50-cent VET token, that would be amazing. Even if we just get to 40 cents, that'd be great. But the higher the better, of course, right? But you can see we got ways to go. The old all-time high is around 30, so we got ways to go, folks. And I'm hoping these coins can really catch up. And remember, not all coins are going to pump at the same time. There's a rotational liquidity, so some coins are going to pump, and then they'll cool down. They'll hit their overbought zone, and then the liquidity rotates to coins that haven't moved. So just remember, kind of every dog has its day, but they don't necessarily all have to move at the same time. David O'Brien says, Tony, McGregor will never be president of Ireland, and it's only a ceremonial position and hold no real power. Ireland had a prime minister. Okay, I appreciate that context, David. I'm just, based on what I read, I'm just letting you guys know, and he's calling for the Bitcoin reserve. But yeah, it seems like a long shot that he would be the president of Ireland. Raphael says, hi, Tony. First of all, thanks for all your amazing input you give us. Your information is much appreciated for many of us. Thank you, Raphael. Happy to help and share the knowledge. Let's see. You said, I just wonder if you're thinking of withdraw some HBAR after this bull run, considering that market will cool down around June, July. Do you reckon? Yeah. So to your point, Raphael, HBAR, by the way, HBAR's chart looks bullish. It has been showing a lot of strength since the early phases of the bull market. In Q4, look at that. It just blasted off the bear market bottom here. And then even though it pulled back, it with everything, of course, it is back above the 200-day moving average. Very good sign. That's what we want to see, folks. And to your point, I will be taking some profits on HBAR. Let's say June brings us to, I don't know, 50 cents or whatever, 55. I'll definitely be taking some profits. Again, I'm not selling all my coins. I'm just laddering out. The same way you dollar cost average in, you can dollar cost average out, because there are no guarantees. As bullish as I am, as bullish as you are, as bullish as the market may feel, and we all want higher prices, there's no guarantee this thing is going to go to, let's say, $1 or $1.50 that we all wanted to, right? I hope it does. That would be really nice, because I'm a token holder and I will make more money, but I got to keep it real with you guys. There are no guarantees here. There will be people telling you it's going to absolutely get here. If they're telling you absolutely, be careful. because if they know that it's absolutely going to get there, maybe they should tell you the winning lottery numbers. This way you can go play the lottery. It'd be a lot easier to make millions than investing, right? Don't get me wrong, investing is great. That's why we're here. But my point is, no one has a crystal ball. So just be careful. Watch out for people who give you guarantees and certainties. We're talking probabilities here. And this is why we have to keep watching the charts closely, watching what Bitcoin is doing, because it's the lead dog. If we were using the analogy, and if the lead dog, something happens to it and it cuts short, that altcoins are not going to have the same type of momentum, right? But if Bitcoin is doing what it has to do, it's showing a lot of strength and momentum, altcoins will catch up. So, we'll watch it closely, of course. David says $10 USD XRP would mean 58 billion market cap. If all start, yeah. Well, look, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but Bitcoin has a $2 trillion market cap. Bitcoin has over a $2 trillion market cap, and Ethereum has over, what is it, 303 billion. You know what I mean? Or am I reading that wrong? Hold on. I just want to make sure I'm looking at this properly. But you guys get what I'm saying. Great to have you, someone special. ClickGrow says Say coin. So Say, I'm aware of the Say coin. I don't personally hold it. I will be interviewing someone from Say actually today. I'm actually interviewing someone from Say today. Let's take a look at what's happening with Say here. So 10 billion supply, circulating supply right now is 5.1 billion. That's not bad. Let's take a look. It looks like it did well. It launched in 2023, did well in early 2024. Let's look at it on the chart here. Say USD. Let's see here. Huge spike when it launched. That's usually not a good sign, but it is what it is. So this launched in 2023. So it needs to show some strength. It's still below that 200-day moving average. So if we're comparing charts here and we look at Bitcoin, right, which is above the 200-day moving average, XRP above the 200-day moving average, Ethereum is approaching the 200-day moving average. Let's look at Solana here. Solana was above the 200-day, but it's approaching to break through again. Then we need Say to show more strength. That's not to say it won't catch up. I think it can. I mean, we're seeing an uptick here. So we still got time in this bull market. So we needed to, of course, get back above and start showing strength. But it is looking decent here. But we need to get back above and show more strength for sure. Well, David, don't put the narrative ahead of the important factors like global liquidity. The foundational idea here, right, as I shared at the beginning, markets follow global liquidity. There's a lag, Bitcoin leads, and then altcoins catch up. That needs to be your foundational thesis. Now, you want to throw in upgrades and certain narratives that could help a coin move a decent amount. Sure, that can help. That's like the cherry on the ice on the sundae, right? But the ice cream, the foundation needs to be global liquidity. So this is where people get caught up and they're like, oh, why didn't this pump off of positive news? Because positive news alone doesn't move markets. It has to be in correlation with things like global liquidity, the US dollar, losing strength, right? Because there's an inverse correlation, the DXY, risk assets, do the opposite. Let's say the dollar is crashing, risk assets pump. Dollars pumping, risk assets are dumping. So let that be your foundational thesis. So the Petra update, did that help? Sure, but that's not the main reason why ETH is pumping. The rotational liquidity from Bitcoin is hitting ETH now. I'm bullish on HBAR, Raphael. So I think it could do really well. Not Your Day says, I've heard SWI is supposed to be the soul of last cycle, yet most price predictions are $10 to $25. How is sold the cycle? So we'll see. You know, SWI does look strong. I'm not saying it doesn't. And I hold SWI. I actually bought the dip when we were in the tariff dumpster crash. You know what I mean? I bought the dip on SWI and XRP. So I am bullish on it. I hold Solana as well. And we'll see how they play out. You know, some people use like the SWI versus Solana chart, and SWI is breaking out on Solana. So here's the thing. All these coins are going to rise. But to your point, some are going to outperform others. So SWI may outperform Solana and Ethereum. That doesn't mean Solana won't pump. That doesn't mean ETH won't pump. So it's a matter of the percentage gains is the what we're talking about here. SWI may give you a bigger bang for your buck. But if you're holding Solana, you're going to make money. If you're holding ETH, you're going to make money. Now, that depends on your entry price. Well, I'm assuming you guys did the smart thing and bought the bloody bear market, right? And didn't buy tops. And then you have, the greater chance of making great returns. So will SWI outperform Solana? It looks like it on the chart, but we'll have to wait to the end of the bull market to see. But Solana is going to have a run. I mean, it's set up. It's priming here. I mean, it's been one of the altcoins that has been leading the bull market since the beginning of 2023, or I should say late 2023, after Bitcoin did its run, and it's been holding very strong. I mean, just look what it did in December, or I should say November 2024. It touched its all-time high, broke through it all-time high, but because the market cooled down and the tariff situation, it didn't get to enter price discovery. So we're waiting for Bitcoin to continue its price discovery to break the old all-time high. XRP, it broke its old all-time high, if I'm not mistaken. So we're waiting for it to get back up here and enter price discovery again. So, the natural correction from the Q4 rally slowed us down, but also the tariff situation really, slowed us down and put us behind a bit. David R. Morales says, Tony, what do you think Crocky's gonna do when we start to see? David, I haven't heard of that coin. Is that the ticker symbol? Can you clarify? Because I have not heard of it. I don't know of it. Far Art Channel. Great to have you. Mad Cow 1776. I don't feel bullish. The charts support it. Well, I don't know what charts you're looking at, but I hope you are taking into consideration all the things I just shared. We're above the 200-day moving average. Bitcoin and risk assets catching up to global liquidity. Tether dominance is falling, which means the liquidity is coming into the market. Bitcoin dominance is starting to break down, which is usually the point of where Bitcoin starts to keep rallying and altcoins are waking up. So I don't know which charts you're looking at. I shared also the stock market. Also starting to recover, V-shaped recovery right here, back above the 200-day moving average, bull market territory. So I don't know which charts you're looking at, unless you misspoke there. If you look at the Bitcoin weekly, as I shared earlier, MACD flipping green here, bulls getting the momentum, and the weekly RSI above the moving average. So I don't know which charts you're looking at, my friend. Acts of violence. Thank you. Let's see here. Freddie Falconer says, what do you reckon on a conservative Ondo price prediction? So let's look at Ondo. I'm bullish on Ondo, and I went to an Ondo event last week in New York City at the they had a dinner and get together at the Freedom Tower. Let's see here. Okay, let me move this back to a daily chart. So using a Fibonacci extension here, and let me move this out a bit here. Okay. So just so you guys know, Ondo showed a ton of strength. Well, this coin, when was it launched? Beginning in January 2024. But anyway, it showed a lot of strength in Q4. I mean, up to $2.19 here. Obviously went back down below, but it's knocking at the door of the 200-day moving average, about to get through there. So let's say with the momentum it has, all the great news we've been hearing, could we see $3, $3.50? It's possible, no guarantee. But let's say we play conservative and we say this thing gets to about $3. I think that's realistic, and it's not far. We're not far from the all-time high here, so we'll see. It could go higher, but you just don't know. Sometimes the narrative and sometimes there's some big hedge funds behind it, and we'll have to wait and see. John 316, thank you so much for the donation, my friend. I appreciate it. Thanks, Brown Hornet. Great to have you. Excuse me. Crypto Poppy says, crypto market cap is just a speculation metric. Utility will make it relevant for adopted protocols. Well, remember, you don't want to have blinders on where you're only focused on one thing. There's a lot of people who run around saying utility, wait till utility, but they don't take other things into consideration. So you can't just run with the utility narrative and be blinded to the other stuff that's going on. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the utility narrative. Just look at the whole lay of the land is what I'm trying to say, because you run with a narrative and you miss the metrics, you miss the signals that indicate the top, and you're going to be left holding the bag with a narrative. So just be careful. Mark Onsiger says, Tony, what do you think of XYO? I have no idea what is XYO. Let's see here. If CoinMarketCap will load. XYO. What is that? I've never heard of this, so it's my first time looking at this. I don't even know what this coin is about. A DePIN ecosystem of consumer software developer tools, decentralized network, and digital assets. So DePIN is a great sector. I think RWA stronger, AI stronger, but DePIN is a great sector, and I think it will do well in the long run, because this is adoption. DePIN is bridging the real world to the digital world with blockchains, right? And for example, guys, I'm going to be interviewing the CEO of Helium Mobile. That's a DePIN project, right? Connecting the mobile network world into phone network world to blockchain tokens and much more. So I'm a believer in DePIN, but it doesn't have the strongest narrative this cycle, but that doesn't mean it won't have it in the future. Again, I don't know much about this project, and it looks like it's been around since 2019 or 2018. Wow. Had a major rally in 2021, and it showed some life in 2024 and the big Q4 rally. Seems like it's bouncing off the bottom here, so that's a good sign. But I honestly don't know about this project, so let's see. It's near its circulating supply. It has 13.93 billion. Max supply is 13.93 billion, and the circulating supply is at 13.47 billion. So they've unlocked a lot of tokens over the years. Initia, David, I don't know about that. Some of these coins I have not heard about. There's a lot of them. Well, let's see here. Initia, if I'm saying that right. Interwoven. Initia is a network for interwoven rollups, combining an L1 and interwoven system of customizable app chains. Initia's opinionated rollup framework allows teams to build. Okay, so it looks like it's solving the Ethereum layer 2 rollup issue, trying to combine them. Yeah, I don't know much about this, but it's chart. I mean, it's rallying. Is this like a new project? Is it launched? The data shows it's launched just recently, and it looks like it's rallying pretty strong here. So we've been seeing ETH rally very strong recently, and anything related to ETH is probably going to start to rally. It's just how these narratives kind of flow and how market makers work. Like, for example, I'm sure many of you have noticed that XLM usually moves with XRP. I think that's the market makers doing that. So you could see if there's a strong narrative around ETH, anything related to ETH can move, but looks good here. It looks like it's a new coin. So, and it has a, let's see, 1 billion in total supply of tokens, but only 148 million are in the market. So that's good. You know, the unlocks I'm sure are going to happen over time, but that's good. That can help with its price. Eric Serrano says Doge, SHIB, XRP, HBAR link. Folks, before we continue, be sure to check out our sponsors. Uphold, great place to buy, sell, trade crypto, and to stake your crypto. And you can earn rewards on stablecoins and much more. It's a platform I've been using since 2018. Also, check out Trezor. They make beautiful hardware wallets that make it easy for you to safely store your crypto. They support all the top coins. And you can use the code ThinkingCrypto, all one word, ThinkingCrypto, to get a 5% discount in buying the devices or other services. I'm a user of the product. I use the Trezor Safe 5, the one that you're seeing here on your screen. And also check out Proppy. I'm a pro token holder. They are putting real estate on chain and disrupting the real estate industry, folks. We know tokenization is the future of finance. Real estate's going to be disrupted. So Proppy is leading the charge here. Also check out VeChain. They're one of the top layer 1 enterprise blockchains, working with Boston's consulting group, Dana White, and the UFC. I'm a VET token holder as well, so check out those links in the description. Also, check out my newsletter on Substack, my book on Amazon, and course at mycryptocourse.com. All the links will be in the description. So let's jump back to some questions here. Matthew Moore says, sell the Newsday? No, not at all. You know, is there some sort of factor? Maybe, but if you look at the charts, I was showing it on the Bitcoin daily chart. Look at this. Earlier, Bitcoin is in the overbought zone. So a natural cool down is needed here, right? When we hit the overbought, you're going to start to see some chop. Now, it could stay in the overbought for a while, just like it did in Q4. So just know that nothing goes up in a straight line. And you can see here when Bitcoin hit its peak on the overbought, it cooled down, stayed in that zone, but then hit it again and kept running up. So that's where we are waiting to see its next move. I think there's more upside here. I think it could go to 120, maybe higher before a local top is formed. And we're still on track. Nothing unusual here, because the other factors that validate this thesis is that Bitcoin dominance is falling. USDT dominance is falling. Will BCH have some gains after Bitcoin gets expensive, though? Well, you know, like I was saying, Matt Cow, earlier, the rising tide lifts all boats. Every dog has its day in this market. So BCH, I think will run. How high will it get? That's the big question. I don't know. There hasn't been much activity or news around BCH. So, you know, it all depends on your entry price at this point for some coins, because, you know, let's take a look at the chart here. Let's see. BCH. Let's see. I'm trying to find the US dollar, BCH US dollar here. Bitfinex? I don't know. What is this? BCHN? You know what? Let's go to Binance, but hold on. BCH USD. So good thing, Mad Cow, Bitcoin Cash, it is showing strength. It's back above that 200-day moving average, and it rallied in Q4. So to your point, you know, it looks like it's going to follow Bitcoin to a certain degree. How high will it get this cycle is TBD, right? There are numerous factors that could come into play in 2021. Notice, here's a great example, folks. I want to share, you know, when I tell you guys, sometimes we just don't know how high a coin may go. Look at Bitcoin Cash, what it did in the 2017, 2019 cycle. It went to near 4,300 bucks. In 2021, it came nowhere close to that. It topped out at about 1,600 bucks. So this is where there are no guarantees, and it all depends on your entry price. Because if you bought BCH in the bear market, then you made a great return when it entered its top, even though that top was way lower than what we saw in 2017. So this is where you got to have a cash out plan, know what your entry price is, because if you're buying tops, that's not good. And hopefully on this podcast and, in reading my newsletter as well, you've learned some things not to do that, not to FOMO in and buy pumps, and not to panic sell, but to buy the fear, buy the blood. This is where you're supposed to be buying. So like down here, not financial advice, this is still a good entry price, because even if it just goes up to $1,200, boom, you got a return there, right? So just keep that in mind. And entry price, returns, and the potential of how high this could go. So let's say we plot like a Fibonacci on here, right? And see what we come up with. Oops, come on. Okay. So using the 2021 high, not the 2017, 2018 high, could this run to a place of, I don't know, 3K or higher? Possible. It has to show more strength. Depends if it gets some adoption news, if there's some big VCs behind it, things like that. Those are things you have to think about. Thanks, Not Your Day. I appreciate that. Paying 448 says June rate cuts. That's possible. Far Art Channel says, can H-bar make an all-time high? I believe so. And look, I hold the token, so you can say, hey, Tony, you're biased. But here's why I'm saying that. Look at where H-bar is compared to other tokens. It is not far from its old all-time high. So just the trajectory, the law of averages and percentages here, it's easy for H-bar to break that versus, the charts I was showing you just now with Bitcoin Cash. It's far down, right? So it is not far, and I think it could absolutely make a new all-time high. How high will it go? That's TBD. I'm hoping for over $1 for sure, maybe $1.30, $1.40. That would be really great. Oh boy, it looks like we got some scammers here. Ban user. Okay. Oh man, you got scammers coming in. Ay. I'm gonna try to ban them here. So you see these like XAI people and all that, those are bots. John 316, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. David R. Morley says, thoughts on CRO. So let's take a look at CRO here. By the way, guys, I'm going to wrap up soon. It's approaching an hour. And yeah. Okay. So let's look at CRO. So guys, I just showed you all the H-bar chart. Look at the CRO chart. It had some life in November with the rally of the market, right? But folks, this is not a very good chart. I'm being honest. I'm not hating on CRO, but you can see it is far from that all-time high of near $1. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm not hating. I'm just looking at the chart and saying, what is the probability or likelihood this is going to make its way all the way up here and break the all-time high? The probability is not that great. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe there's some massive news that comes out and CRO gets huge adoption. They burn some tokens and that sends the price up. But right now, this chart, this coin needs to show more strength. It's showing a lot of weakness here. And it could eventually catch up. Maybe it's a laggard, right? But compared to the H-bar chart that I just showed you, look at the difference. Clear difference, right? Very, very clear. Not far from the old all-time high. Way off the bear market bottom, showing strength. Hope that's helpful. David Young says, when it comes to pulling profits and I've owned XRP for less than a year, how does that work with taxes? It's kind of confusing. David, first, I have to say you should talk to an accountant or tax expert. I don't know where you live, but if you are in the United States, generally less than a year, it comes to short-term capital gains. Over a year, it's long-term capital gains. Short-term capital gains has higher has a higher tax bracket. So you'll get taxed at a higher percentage versus if you were holding the assets for over a year. So just keep that in mind. So you should have a spreadsheet mapped out with this. If channel members, people who are channel members, they get access to a link to a template where you can, just do that. And you can do it on your own. It's not something like rocket science or anything like that. But what it was your entry price, what's your sales price, and then you have to highlight the dates you bought, right? So if it's less than a year, you can calculate based on your income level what short-term capital gains you will get hit at. I have this mapped out in my cash out plan document to pretty much get an idea of what my expected taxes are. Now, by default in the document, I simply put 50% because I'm just preparing that if there's anything that happens with the taxes and much more, I have that cushion. So just keep that in mind. I know 50% may seem crazy, but I'm just doing that as a precautionary measure. That doesn't mean I'm giving the IRS 50% of my money. It's just in case. I'm putting 50% of that profit, not touching it. So when the tax time comes and my accountant goes through everything, I'm covered, right? Worst case scenario, I'm covered. The other 50% spending, paying off debt, putting some money in retirement, and much more. Man, we got a ton of spammers in the chat here trying to block these fools. Be careful out there, folks. A lot of scams. Let me try to skip ahead. We got a Men of Fortitude. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it. The $9.99. Thank you so much. Test Jew says, hi, OKX is now available in the US. Any thoughts on them? So OKX is one of the largest exchanges. They're massive in the Asian markets. Their volume is second to Binance. That's how big they are. They're a legit exchange. And I used to work at a company owned by OKX called OKCoin. They were trying to penetrate the US market. And unfortunately, because of Gensler and the whole regime, they left the market. They sunsetted the business because they didn't want to get a Wells notice and get sued. So now they're coming back in as cryptos open up, but they're not coming in under OKCoin. They're coming in as OKX. So that makes sense for them to keep the same brand, if you know what I mean. And so I trust them. I think they're a great platform. Relato one, yes, absolutely. Ignore the bots, guys. I know it's annoying. I'm trying to ban them and block them. It's a lot of them. You guys can report them too if you can. I don't know if it lets you do that, but definitely block them. Guys, these are all bots. I block a ton of these things and they keep coming back. YouTube and a lot of the social platforms have a huge problem with this. Eventually, we need to get to blockchain profiles and that will help, but it really sucks, guys. Apologies for that. Acts of Violence says, are you following Sonium? Yeah, so this is news I've reported on. Sonium is the blockchain launched by Sony. Many of you may have heard of it. It's an Ethereum layer 2, if I'm not mistaken. But isn't it amazing that you have, I don't know if they have a coin. This is something I'm not sure about, but yeah, it's huge. We have some of the old electronics companies stepping in, building blockchains, doing much more. It's pretty crazy. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for being a channel member as well. Hustlemine says, do you think XRP will pull back to $2.20 before the all-time high? It's possible. We'll have to wait and see. It's hard to tell. Look, I'm not the most advanced technical analyst, clearly, right? I'm not some TA guy, but I know enough to be dangerous, what I've learned, and to help me make money. The short-term calls like that, I would leave to experts like Blockchain Backer and others, right? And Kevin Svensson and all these guys who are chart experts. XRP Paradise. Yeah. I mean, XRP goes to 5. Yeah, for sure, man. But just be careful. Don't tell people how many coins you have. I know you're hiding behind a pseudonymous profile. That's good, right? Just make sure you don't tell people that they know what's your real name, where you're located, and you put your crypto. Make sure you don't say stuff like that. It just attracts attention. People are out there looking, scammers. So just be careful. Man of Fortune says thoughts on Velo. So let's look at Velo here. I've heard of Velo. I don't hold it, but let's take a look. Velodrome Finance, I'm assuming. So let's see. It did really well in the rally in Q4. That's a good sign. It took it all back, of course, unfortunately. But it looks like it's starting to move a bit, but it has to get back above that 200-day moving average, get back into that bull market territory. So this looks like it was launched in 2024, seems like. But it looks, I mean, what we saw in 2024, I mean, very, very strong rally there. So let's see. Hopefully he took some profits, you know, if he bought down here, but let's see if it can do that same type of move, show you even more strength with more liquidity. Could it get to 70 cents, maybe 90 cents? It's possible. You know, these are probabilities, of course. Raider fan Keith says, I'm excited to see what all Cardano and Ripple are working on. Going to be one hell of a partnership. Yeah, and I've been talking about it. Shout out to Charles Hoskinson and the folks at Cardano. I think they've seen that the way to help them grow is the bridge to other chains, because it's going to be a multi-chain world, and it's very competitive on the smart contract space, right? Cardano has a lot of competition. You got Solana, Avalanche, Ethereum, of course. So yeah. All right, folks. Once again, check out our sponsors: Uphold, Trezor, Propy, VeChain. Also, sign up for my free email newsletter, 100% free. I include a lot of chart analysis and data in there. So this is a great way for you to catch up on the markets and, you know, get an idea where we're at in the cycle, because that's an important factor, right? So even if I'm not doing a live stream, or you know, maybe I missed the day to do a video, you can always go to the newsletter to see what's happening. And check out my book on Amazon and my course at mycryptocourse.com. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much for your support. Guys, I'm wishing you all the best of luck in this bull market, that you make incredible returns and money. Once again, put your plan on paper. Where did you buy? What price did you buy? What price points are you looking to sell at? And remember, no one can call the exact top, so you want to start dollar cost averaging out or laddering out. So just make sure you keep an eye on the markets, tune in, subscribe to the newsletter so you can stay on top of what's happening in the market. Obviously, not just with me, but other analysts as well. I follow a lot of different folks because I know no one person can get everything right. So you want to make sure you're, you know, educating yourself, listening to people who are not only doing hype, who are not promising this price point, that price point, just level-headed analysis, right? So just be patient and let's watch this closely. Let's see how things play out as we keep moving higher. All right, folks, thank you so much. Appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you all later.